to Abby Talk on the Ross Costello Sports Network. Today, we'll be picking each matchup in Week 3 of the NFL. Our first game, Detroit visiting Washington. Ross, how do you feel about this one?
If you watched the show before, you know I'm not a fan of the Detroit Lions, but I have to pick them this week because I just have zero confidence in the Washington Redskins thus far in the season. I feel like the Redskins' defense is just awful. I feel like their pass rush has improved, but their back end is still horrendous. And if you know the Lions are one of the best passing offenses in the league, I feel like they'll have no one to match up with Megatron, and Megatron will have a huge day. I feel like the Redskins will get off to another slow start and dig themselves another big hole that they will not be able to dig out of. So I got the Lions winning by 10 points or so in this game. Unfortunately, the Redskins lose another one, start 0-3, and sorry, Pat, they're not making the playoffs this year.
Yes, I also agree the Lions will come into Washington, D.C. and beat the Redskins. I just don't think the Redskins will be able to establish the running game with the strong defensive line of the Lions. I mean, Ndamukong Suh will be licking his chops at RG3's leg. I mean, he doesn't care about his health. So I think that's going to have a major impact. I also agree with the Lions by a touchdown. The next game, Green Bay visiting Cincinnati.
Last week, I had a little bit of a rant about the Bengals, saying that they better win this game because it's enough of little brother syndrome. So now it's time for them to take the next step. I think they're going to win this game because the Packers' defense isn't that good. Andy Dalton has found a second weapon in Giovanni Bernard. A.J. Green is going to have a field day on this secondary. The Bengals in the second half are much more explosive and proved to me that they could be a good offensive team. I think they're one of the most complete teams in football, and they proved that they're here to stay and ready to contend with the win over the Green Bay Packers this Sunday.
I have to disagree with you on this one. I'm going with Green Bay on the road. I just think their offense is too explosive and too unstoppable for Cincinnati secondary. I also think James Starks will provide a little help in the run game, which should set up the play action. I just think it's going to be a shootout, but I just think Rodgers will outscore Dalton. So, Packers in that one. Our next game, St. Louis visiting Dallas.
I got the Dallas Cowboys in this one. I'm sipping the Cowboys Kool-Aid. I know they lost to Kansas City, but I picked this team to win the NFC East, and I got to stick with them. I think they're a much better team than St. Louis. St. Louis, very inconsistent, fell behind early against Atlanta. I think that'll be the same. I think it'll be the same deal here in Dallas. Dallas kicking themselves how they lost a close one last week. I got Dallas winning by a touchdown. St. Louis will play close, but not good enough.
I disagree again. I'm going with the St. Louis Rams on the road. I just have a feeling that Sam Bradford and Taron Austin will hook up for a few touchdowns. Dallas' secondary is going to have some difficulty, and so I got St. Louis in this one. So our next game will be... Hold up, sorry. San Diego visiting Tennessee. Oh, let's take a look at this one.
I actually think that the Tennessee Titans will win this game. Their defense has been very impressive. I think Chris Johnson finally has a matchup where he could get off going running. You think about it, they beat a Pittsburgh Steelers team that isn't very good, but they were able to grind that one out. They played very well against the Texans, didn't finish. I think they're kicking themselves. I think they're angry about that loss. I think San Diego having to come across country to Tennessee. I just give Tennessee the slight edge. I think they squeak this one out by a field goal just because Chris Johnson can run. I think they'll control the possession, and I think they'll be 2-1 surprisingly by this point in the season.
I got San Diego in this one. I doubted them last week for coming across, play Philadelphia, but they proved me wrong and beat Philadelphia. So this week, I'm not going to doubt them because I think Phillip Rivers and Eddie Royal have a great connection. Also, Antonio Gates is going to prove to be a matchup problem. So I got San Diego in this one. Next game, Cleveland visiting Minnesota. Sorry.
I got Minnesota. I mean, obviously Cleveland's going with Brian Hoyer and whoever the hell is going to be in the backfield. I think Willis McGahee. I don't want to really spend much time speaking about this one. Obviously, the Browns made the trade for Trent Richardson, so they're throwing in the towel. Hopefully, they're in the J. David Clowney or Teddy Bridgewater sweepstakes. So the Vikings 0-2 team. They've lost close both times. I think they finally get that victory, and I think they win big in this one.
Yeah, Vikings, no doubt. I don't need an explanation. Let's move on. Tampa Bay visiting New England.
Tampa Bay is a 7.5-point underdog. I pick them to cover, but not to win. The Patriots will find a way to win this game. The Patriots, I think there's still going to be some growing pains with that offense. This game is going to be a lot closer than you think. The Buccaneers have played close with a very good team in the Saints, and almost came away with a win in Week 1 against the Jets. I think the Patriots, who have been in two close games with two very inferior teams, so I expect that trend to continue. I think Tampa Bay hangs around, but the Patriots ultimately get the victory by a margin of 3 or 4 points.
Yes, I also agree. Patriots will win. Josh Freeman's just not looking good so far this year. I mean, so just based on that, he's going to throw a few picks, I believe, in this game. So New England by 7 points. Okay, Arizona visiting New Orleans.
I picked New Orleans to go to the Super Bowl. They're 2-0 right now. I expect them to continue, and I got to stick with them. So they're going to be 3-0, and they're at home. I expect them to blow the doors open, to be completely honest with you. St. Louis will play well. I think Palmer will put up some points, but I just feel like New Orleans will win by 2 touchdowns or so.
Yeah, I also agree. New Orleans will go 3-0. This game's going to be a shootout. I mean, I think the Palmer to Fitzgerald connection will keep him in it, but I think the Saints just pull away at the end. They'll win by 10 points. Well, that's the end to our part 1 of NFL Week 3. Be sure to tune in to part 2. Thank you.